myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not.
Morning all, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Bright early morning with Ross Gregory. How are you, Ross?
I'm good, Steve. How's yourself?
I'm very good, mate. Nice to see you out and about today at HQ, I gather.
Yes. I'm in Eldon Square, the Chronicle offices today for meeting a few of the guys and got a couple of meetings set up. So all good today.
Excellent, mate. Good stuff. We've plenty to talk about, and the chat's already gone wild with questions. So as it's your show, we will come to you and see what you want to know and see whether we can at least fill in some gaps or shatter some of these illusions that people have got. Chippers is straight in with Ross. Do you think Newcastle will sign someone this week? Which is it's a fair question, I guess. The transfer window is still in its infancy. Very little deals, getting done across the board. A couple of big deals done. We know Haaland and Darwin Núñez as destinations now. I don't think anybody in the wildest dreams expected either of them to come to Newcastle. Newcastle, of course, done the deal for Matt Targett since we last spoke. But signing someone this week is what people, I think, would probably like to see. I think the people certainly on social media are getting the jitters because we haven't come up with a big signing yet. Yeah,
it's always going to be the case until you get that first one kind of nailed down. It is, the transfer window, it is open until 31st of August. There's no massive rush, and I think what you find with transfers is that once one or two or three start to go through, there's a bit of a domino effect, and you release funds get released for other players, and it just becomes a bit of a domino effect whereby more signings start to come through. As for Newcastle, look, we all know that they're close on a couple of potential targets, and they're trying to get a couple signed, whether it's Paqueta or Sven Botman. Matt Targett's already in the building. That one came through last week, so that was really good news. I think a little bit of patience still needs to be had because these deals are complicated for a number of factors. But I wouldn't be surprised if there is something that gets sorted before, certainly before we speak again next week.
Okay, well, that's at least slight optimism on your behalf. And as I say, we can only give our opinions on these shows. There's not, inside knowledge. I mean, we all get stories and we've all got people who can, give us a little bit of information, but never take anything as gospel on our show or any other platform because, we could be getting led up the garden path as well. Some great questions coming in. John, I'll take part one of your question first. He says, morning all, lads, I'm struggling to think of any strikers or goal scorers that we might sign. Admittedly, my knowledge of leagues abroad is very limited. Do you have any thoughts?
I think that is going to be the biggest conundrum for Newcastle this summer is bringing that level of attacking players into the club that they want to improve what's already it's already a decent squad, but you've got to be able to improve it. And strikers, forward players, goal scorers are at a premium. The top ones are at a premium. Look at Darwin Núñez, who's been linked with Newcastle over the last few months, if not longer. He's going for 85 million. 85 million to Liverpool. Now that is a heck of a lot of money, and there's not a lot of players who can come in and hit the ground running and guarantee your goals, who are available at the minute. That there's plenty of good forwards out there, but getting them for the right price and in a timely manner is going to be very, very difficult. Negotiations are going to be really difficult because everybody knows Newcastle have got a little bit of money to spend, so that's always going to inflate prices a little bit, which we've seen throughout the last kind of 6 months as well. I think there's definitely value out there. There's definitely players out there. In Newcastle, I've got a really strong scouting network. It could be better, and it will be improved, obviously. But they've got plenty of contacts in abroad and in the lower leagues. Obviously, Paqueta is one that they're trying to get done, and they feel that he can bring goals and assists to to the first team as well. There will be some movement though, as the window goes a little bit deeper. There will be movement. There will be movement on your Dominic Calvert-Lewins and people of that kind of ilk. I think you just have to be a little bit patient, because it's not something that Newcastle are in a position at the minute to so all of a sudden bring in a top striker very early in the window at a price which kind of appeals to everybody.
Yeah, that's that's the thing, isn't it? Really, I think the transfer window is in its infancy. We've just got to be patient. It's the thing that I keep trying to reiterate with people. Okay, a lot of questions coming in, but we will go with John's second question, which is: I think we might be okay defensively next season, even if we don't make a signing. Have I lost it? It's interesting, because I've had this conversation myself over the last couple of days with some of my friends who I go to the game with, and I said that it's not a priority. The priority is a goal scorer, somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net, and get 15, 20 goals in a season. Ideally, that's what we're looking for, and they don't come cheap. Could we survive with the back four that we've got? We've signed Target, we've got plenty of support at left back. We could get by at right back with what we've got. Centre halves, we've got enough if we don't let anybody go. I think we could get away with that back four if we really had to. I don't think you've lost it, John. Ross, what do you think?
No, I agree. I don't think it's the priority. I think you always want to strengthen your squad, and Eddie Howe will be looking at his squad and saying, right, where can I improve this? Where can we improve this squad? And they want a left-sided centre half. To add competition, to add some quality, and to add some class. If they don't bring the right player in this window, they've certainly still got enough cover there. I think it's not. I agree. I don't think it's a priority, and there's certainly enough for next season to kind of achieve what they want to. Well, I say to achieve what they want to achieve. What is the aims next season? If the aim is to get into the top 6, top 8, top 10. Then I think they probably do need another high quality centre half to come in. If the aim is to finish 10th, 12th, fine, comfortable with what they've got. I think that would be more than achievable defensively. Left back is really, really well catered for now with Target and Jamal Lewis and Paul Dummett. Right back is really well catered for with we've got an England international there and Kieran Trippier. In good cover with Kraft and Manquillo. I'm still a little bit uncertain about that centre defence. I would personally like to see one more brought in, but it isn't a priority, and they could quite conceivably still have a really solid, good season with the centre halves that they've got.
Yeah, the other point that somebody made, I think it might have been John again. Actually, yeah, it was. He says, "Why not keep Fernandez for another year when he's one of the best defenders at the club?" Well, in principle, John, I would agree with what you're saying. However, there seems to be some kind of underlying issue, similar to the one we've got with Dwight Gale, which means that he doesn't play. Now, I'm not going to cast any aspersions as to what that could be, but, it's quite clear that although he was fit and he did come on in one substitute appearance and he was on the bench, for some reason, he didn't figure in the plans. So, Ross, I mean, it's a nice idea, as I said, in principle, but he's not really looking as if he's going to get a look in at Newcastle for whatever reason.
No, and there is obviously there'll be things that go on behind the scenes. He's very highly thought of, and he is a very, very good defender. But he's a certain age now, and his injury record hasn't always been the best over recent years as well. So when he's fit and available, he's great. If he's your fourth choice centre half, behind Fabian Schär, behind Dan Burn, behind Jamal Lascelles, and Fernandez, then he's not a bad option fourth choice centre half. But I think they just want an extra bit of quality in there. You've got Schär and Burn, who are obviously the first choices, or were the first choice centre half pairing in that second half of the season, with Lascelles as kind of backup. I think they want another extra bit of quality in there, better than Fernandez, more reliable, fitter, younger, with a bit more about him. But Fernandez has been a decent player, and every time he's played, I can't remember too many occasions where he's let the club down.
No, definitely not. I just think there's clearly like some kind of underlying issue, and I just think, yeah, that we've probably seen the last of him in a black and white shirt. Geordie Tune for Life says, "Morning, Stephen Ross. Are Newcastle going in for Paqueta, or is this just paper talk because of his friendship with Bruno?" Something we covered on the transfer show last night with Joe Walker and with Burnsy. My mindset is that it's paper talk, and the Paqueta's friendship with Bruno has really clouded the issue a little bit. But it can build up momentum, these kind of things. And players do talk, friends do talk. Ross, if there was potential there, then of a move or getting him away from the club, and there has been rumours from their side that they would be prepared to let him go. It may well happen. You never know, I guess.
I think it's one for further down the line. I don't think it's one for this transfer window at all, or probably even January. Might be something that gets revisited in a year's time or so, but it's just not a priority. It's not someone who they've really looked at and is on the list of kind of immediate targets as far as I'm aware from what I've heard. So he's obviously very good friends with Bruno, and Bruno would love to have him at Newcastle, but that's not how transfers work. You don't just sign players mates just because they want them there. There's got to be a process, and I don't think Paqueta's on the list at the minute.
Yeah, it's one again for the back burner, I think. And if something develops, we'll hear. I'm sure very, very soon. Terry Armstrong says, "Morning all. Do you think these owners have learned to do business behind closed doors, and we could sign some surprise names that haven't been mentioned in the press?"
It's always possible. I think we talked the other week about Aston Villa and the business that they've done recently. Very, very quietly, very, very efficiently. Names just not being leaked or not coming out until the signature is virtually done, and it's all signed, sealed, and delivered. So they've been the experts recently at kind of getting stuff done behind closed doors and without any leaks. Newcastle isn't quite like that, and because there's so many names in the mix and so many moving parts with Newcastle's transfer strategy at the minute, and the money and stuff that's involved. I would be surprised if there was somebody who just popped out of nowhere. But you never know. There will be players who they are scouting without a shadow of a doubt that they are the scouting and that they're interested in, who haven't been mentioned in the press yet. So in an ideal world, from a club perspective, that would be how it would be done. Just very quietly, very efficiently, no real fuss or kind of promotion or profiling. It just publicity, and it just gets done. From my side of things as a journalist, and from our side of things, we try to get stories. We try to uncover the truth, and it's and that's where a lot of the speculation and a lot of the rumor comes from, because there's so many different parts. So I would like to see a bit of publicity around these signings, but the club will obviously want to try and keep them under wraps as much as possible.
Yeah, the breaking news is that Bissouma to Spurs for £25 million. The fee has now been agreed. A couple of Skullfist says, "Why weren't we interested in him?" and that he was a bargain for £25 million. I mean, clearly not a player we were chasing. I
think if that fee is correct, £25 million for Bissouma is an absolute bargain. I think in today's transfer market, somebody of his caliber and his reputation and his profile is 25 million. I would be surprised if it was that low, but fair enough. If it is, then it's great. There's been a couple of clubs who've looked at him. Villa were interested. Newcastle have certainly been interested, and there's obviously the Dan Ashworth link. But again, is centre midfield a priority at the minute now? You could say it is. A lot of people will say that a really strong defensive midfielder is something that the club really needs. But I'm not saying there's a limited transfer budget, but there is a transfer budget, and they've got to allocate it in the areas that they need to. If it's 80 million, if it's 100 million, if you want to bring a top quality forward in, that's going to cost you 30-40 million, potentially 50 million more. You've got to allocate your budget in the right way, and I just don't think that centre midfield at the minute is a priority in Newcastle's minds, in Eddie Howe's mind, in Steve Nixon's mind, in Dan Ashworth's mind.
Yeah, I would agree. And Basuma, great, a great signing for Tottenham. But one of the points made in the chat is by Ian McKenna that we don't have Champions League, and that is something we have to remember. That we can't offer European football. Some of these players have done their time at somewhere like Brighton. They've proved that they can play at a higher level, and now they've got ambitions to want to go off and play European football. And next season, we can't offer that. Tom Dixon says, any news on Ekitike? With him getting injured the other night, will he be fit to go through a medical if possible? He looked quite fit when he was running onto the pitch to celebrate. It doesn't look as if it was too bad an injury. Any more info on that? I mean, some people are claiming that it could be done, by the end of the week. But again, a lot of speculation about this young lad. Yeah,
I think it's close. I think it is close. They're just, I think most of the fee and everything is agreed. Again, from what I've heard, most of the fee and the payment structure and everything else is agreed.
Has it been up, Ross? I mean, I guess you get a bit more than I do. Do you think it's been up? Because again, do you think that was just a social media rumor yesterday? There was people claiming that it had gone from 30 million to 36 million for Botman. Ekitike, of course, people, social media, you just got to separate the wheat from the chaff. But what's your views on let's talk Botman as well as Ekitike?
Look, so transfer deals in the main are very, very complicated. It's very rare that you just get something that goes through very, very easily, especially when you're talking 40 million pounds. What you don't get as well is you don't get that. There's if you go into a shop and want to buy a shirt, Steve, there you go. It's 40 quid. You hand over your 40 quid. It's yours. When you're talking transfers, if somebody's 40 million, you don't go in and go, and most of the time you don't go in and go, there's 40 million, he's yours, he's a player. It's payment structure. It's right. We pay 12 million up front, and then we pay another 10 million here, another 20 million there. And then if he achieves international success here, or he wins this, or the club wins that while he's there, it's all staggered payments. And you've got to remember that the negotiations over the payment structure is very, very complicated with clubs, and they can be real kind of sticking points. Negotiations over contracts are exactly the same. A player can be on this amount, but then there's bonuses linked in, and if he moves into this kind of level of playing international football, then his payment structure will go up, and so on and so forth. It's not just a case of, right, there you go, there's 40 million, off you go, we'll take him, and he's coming into Newcastle. It's complicated. So I think a lot of the time there's and from what I gather with both these deals, Ekitike and Botman, there's a kind of general fee which is agreed, but then it's how is that fee structured? How is that transfer payment structured? How much is up front? How much is in bonuses? How much is in different clauses? And that's where the negotiations kind of can stumble, can stall, can sometimes fall down, but can also take a little bit of time. And equally on the contract side of things as well. So, I think Ekitike he'll get done. I really do think that one's really close and will get done. Whether it's over the next couple of days, whether it's over the next week or so, I really do think it's close. Botman, I think's probably a bit more 50-50. Does he really want to come, or does he want to go to Milan, or Lille kind of holding Newcastle a little bit of ransom and trying to play the two clubs off against each other? The reports in Italy at the end of last week were that Milan were out of the running, which kind of indicates that Newcastle might get a bit of a free run in it. But then, if Lille are kind of moving the goalposts a little bit with the deal, it's going to come to a point whereby Newcastle just either have to agree or walk away, and that's some of the complexities around these contracts, and something which is obviously going to be a real focus point for Dan Ashworth. Now he's in the building.
Yeah, Dan Ashworth has got work to do. Of course, he was out there watching Botman play and, talk about him sitting there watching his son who didn't get on either. But, look, Ashworth's in the building now, and he will have his own ideas, his own minds. I'm sure they will be comparing lists and what Dan Ashworth wants to do compared to what maybe Steve Nixon and the rest of the guys wanted to do in the past is maybe a little bit different. But look, it's exciting times, and just remember that the foundations are being built on concrete, not on sand at the moment. Mark says, "Morning lads, I really like Mo Sangaria from PSV. Release clause of 27 million. Any new links to him this summer, Ross?"
Not a name that's come across my desk. Not a name that's come across my my kind of information. So, obviously a good player and highly thought of, but it's not one that I've been made aware of.
Yeah, Ian McKenna says there's saying more money than sense. We need to be sensible. Ian, couldn't agree more. Geordie Toomba Life says Jesus and Werner are players who would improve us and wouldn't cost much more than 50 million. But again, Ross, it's that problem of not having European football, isn't it?
Of course it is. I agree. Jesus and Timo Werner, exceptional players, really, really good forwards. One's at Man City, who've just won the Premier League. He's won the Premier League for 4 times in the last 5 years or whatever, and has reached Champions League semi-finals and finals. Timo Werner's a German international playing for Chelsea, Champions League winner a couple of seasons ago, FA Cup winner, blah, 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 blah. You're not going to be able to attract those, in my mind, not this year, unless there's a really attractive multi-million pound offer, financial offer on the table for them, which I don't think Newcastle are prepared to do at this point in terms of breaking wage structures hugely like that. I don't see anybody like Gabriel Jesus or Timo Werner coming from a Man City or a Chelsea to Newcastle when there's no Champions League or European football or any guarantee that there will be in the next couple of 3 years.
Yeah, okay. Sangara, great. Definitely midfield, but slow like a boat, turns fast as well, dead. Interesting. Can we be confident, says John, that Callum Wilson will be injured less if he does less travelling home south as he has suggested?
Look, we saw Callum Wilson at the end of last season when he came back. He's a fantastic player when he's fit and he's healthy. He's a massive addition to Newcastle and kind of changes the way that the team play. Chris Wood did an all right job when he came in. He did a decent job. He did the job that he was brought in to do. But I think you saw in those last couple of games the difference that someone like Callum Wilson can make to that team. I don't think his fitness issues are going to go away, if I'm being brutally honest. I think he's one of those players that will always have some sort of niggles or knocks or injury related issues. I just think he's one of those unfortunate players. It might be the way that he puts himself about on the pitch. It might just be a case of bad luck. It might be he's had a lot of previous injuries, which when you're doing your rehab can affect other parts of your kind of your body. If you've got a knee injury, it can affect your hamstrings and your back and all sorts. So I just think he's one of those players that's gonna suffer, and I don't think that the club can necessarily rely on him to be playing 35-40 games a season. We hope that he will stay fit and healthy. We really do, because he's an exceptional player when he is fit. But I just think it's a bit too much of a gamble to rely on Callum Wilson. If we can get 25 games out of him, great. But I think that's for me why there needs to be another central striker brought into the club. Yeah,
Skullfist says it's hard to be patient with transfers after so many failed windows under Mike Ashley. That's a great point, Skullfist, and it comes back to that Stockholm syndrome that Mitch talks about quite happily on the Three Amigos. That we're going through a transition as a support, Ross. You know what I mean? And it's so difficult after 14 years of this mindset of being ignored by the owner, but also no investment in the team of any great significance over 14 years. I guess that's why this transition is proven to be a little difficult for Newcastle fans to accept. That nothing's happening, there's that paranoia suddenly starts to get in because people think, well, you know, we're not going to sign anybody, we're going to get messed around, we're going to be bringing in a Shefty Kuchi on the 31st of August. It's just, we've got to get over that. We've got to park that in the past and accept that we are in a much better place now.
Oh, absolutely. Look, in a miles better place. Look at January. Okay, so there was when it was a point in the January transfer window when fans, supporters, media were getting a little bit nervy and twitchy because, you know, there was a period where, again, you know, the Botman and Paqueta deals didn't get done, and there was the Diego Carlos as well. So there was a lot of twitchiness around some of those some of that January transfer window. Look how it panned out. You know, sometimes you've got to trust in the process, and you've got to be patient. I've said it before, but it's complicated, and you're not going to get necessarily your first choice or your second choice. You will have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different strikers on a list, and you know they're on there because each will bring different things to the party. Each will have different complications around the deal. So you do need to be patient a little bit and trust that the club is in a much stronger position and will eventually get there. But yeah, once bitten, twice shy under Mike Ashley, and some of the failed transfer windows of the past have obviously scarred deeply, and it's getting rid of those scars can take a little bit of time. But I've got no doubt at all that this transfer window it might not be as transformative as what some people hope for and some people wish, but I've got no doubt that there'll be some really exciting signings coming in over the next 2 months, and a lot of money spent.
Me too. Big shout out to our sponsor, Spider Miner, worldwide coverage from the lads, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to Skips and Bins, skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and the Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.gohd.com. Thanks to John at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the guys who do our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks to Click-Eye, meet the new Game Over screen. Drop into a Clearrun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. And if you want to subscribe, then hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the like button, which is the little thumb underneath the video, and click share to share your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. Usually goes up 24 hours after the YouTube show has finished. You can join the channel by hitting join underneath the video, or put your smartphone over the QR code and it takes you straight to the membership pack side of things. If you go via the website, NUFCmatters.com, then you pay a one-off fee. You get a cup, a scarf, a membership card, and a pen. And entry into the draw this week, which takes place on Friday, to win a season ticket or the cash equivalent of £1,000. So make sure you enter that today. It's a one-off payment, well worth entering if you haven't got a season ticket. Don't forget, when you subscribe to the show, you receive a free car window sticker. Just email john@nufcmatters.com. And we support the food bank on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The match day bucket is virtual and is available 365 days of the year. Make a donation today. Don't forget, our end of season do is at Shearer's Bar on Friday, the 24th of June. Doors are at 7 o'clock. Tickets at £12 and £15 respectively. An evening with Mick Lowes and Andy Griffin. Tickets available now from NUFCmatters.com. Okay, back to your questions. And Jimmy says, any information on Dean Henderson? Because it looks like Newcastle are looking elsewhere on the goalkeeper front. Shane Mawson from Australia says, Ross, any Newcastle interest in the Forest goalkeeper? And I do think Terry Armstrong also asked the same question. Any news on the goalkeeper situation, Ross?
Yeah, again, an interesting one, the keeper situation. I know the Henderson links have been played down a little bit recently. From my side of things, again, and you can only go on what you've been told and what you're hearing, is that there is still an interest there in Henderson, as far as I'm aware, but it'll probably go deeper into the transfer window if he doesn't get sorted with anything else. Then I think it could be a deal that is still on the cards. But goalkeeper again isn't necessarily at the top of the priority list for Newcastle this summer. But it is on the list, if that makes sense. It's something that they would like to do. They would like to improve the keeper situation and bring somebody else in. But there are priorities. They see the centre half issue as a priority. They see the forward positions as priorities. The left back was, and that's been kind of nailed now. I do think that they want to explore the keeper situation, but it might not be for this window. Dean Henderson is definitely somebody that they have had an interest in retaining interest in, but it's probably just on the back burner for the time being.
Okay, that's funny. Keith says he wants some more questions in 5 minutes, Ross, than Ben Jacobs done in an hour. Yeah, Ben does like.
Is that because I ramble on, or I rattle mine off?
You rattle yours off. You rattle yours off. Ben does take his time. Does go all the way around the garden sometimes to answer. But it was a great show again with Ben. Wildhead says, I really want Trossard plays all three front positions. Brighton, great touch and vision. Yeah, I still think we might go back to Brighton and do a little bit of raiding there. I wouldn't be surprised. And Matthew, he says, I've got a couple of questions. Do you think we'll get a goalkeeper? We've covered that. Also, is right wing a priority this window? Miggy and Fraser are good, but I don't think they are the sort of players to help break the top 10. So right wing, Ross.
Yeah, great point. Really good point. I agree. I don't think Miggy, Fraser, Jacob Murphy are players who are going to get you into that. Maybe they will in the top 10, but certainly not your top. For me, not necessarily the top 8, top 6. I think it's an area that they want to improve. Having said that, I did say on the show, might have been last week or the week before, that Ryan Fraser was probably my pick as most improved player over the last year, or the one who kicked on the most. And so with Eddie Howe and his coaching style and the way he gets the best out of players, I think he will kind of bring players on and continue to improve them. But I think Newcastle are looking at wide forwards, players who are flexible, who can play on the right, play on the left, of a kind of a front three, and that'll include Paqueta and players obviously like say Maximum, who can play right side or left side. The front three is definitely an area that they want to improve, and definitely an area that they will bring players in over the next couple of months. So whether it's right wing specifically is a priority, maybe it's not, but those kind of wide forwards are certainly areas that they're looking at.
Okay, Tom says, where do you think Tarkowski will end up? Everton looked favourite, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that deal will go through with Everton. It was an interesting one. I think I mentioned previously, but when I had conversations with people close to Tarkowski's camp back in kind of January time, and he was hopeful that a top 6 club would come in from. He thought, as a free agent, somebody who's played for England, who's got a lot of Premier League experience, he was hopeful that a top 6, top 8 club would come in from, and he maybe wouldn't be the first choice, and he would maybe have to be a kind of squad player, but he was kind of quite hopeful that one of those big teams would come in and make him an offer. It doesn't seem to have happened at the minute. So yeah, Everton look the favourites at the minute.
Yeah, I'd agree. Howe to Payne, hope you're doing well, mate. He says, do you guys have full faith in Eddie Howe to take your team to the next level, or will he be sacked before the end of the season? Good question. From my perspective, I've got full faith in Eddie Howe. Definitely trust the guy. Will the Saudis give him time? Yeah, I do think they will. I think even if Newcastle get off to a bad start, I think he'd be given the time. I think he earned the time, I think, in the way that he performed last season. Ross?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's. I think what he's done over the last 6-8 months has been really, really good. that said, that there's no kind of guarantees in football, and it's a ruthless business at times, and it's you've got to keep moving, you've got to keep progressing all the time, and Eddie Howe will know that. Eddie Howe will know that what the ambitions of the club are. They've been quite well documented and upfront about the desire to push ultimately for that kind of top four, trophies, win the Premier League, etc., etc. So he knows that he's got a little bit of pressure on his head, but you can only judge somebody on their actions and what they've done so far. I'll be honest, and people who follow us on social media will know that I was a little bit disappointed in kind of January that there hadn't been the improvement that I'd hoped to have seen. And I understand the process. It takes a while for that process to come through. I was hoping there would have been a bit more immediacy over it. But since that January transfer window, when he's brought in the quality of players that he needs, and he's managed to get his coaching philosophy over a lot better. How he's transformed that team and the playing squad over the last 6 months, certainly since January, has been fantastic.
Stephen Renford says, morning lads, why does it seem that with all the money in the world we find it hard to buy players? Again, I think it's just a patience thing, Stephen. It's Rome wasn't built in a day. You've just got to give people that little bit of time, and that European thing, I will keep coming back to it. I sound like a broken record, but we don't have European football, and some of the targets that we go for may feel that they want to better themselves and go to a team in the top 6 or top 7 who are going to be in the Europa or going to be in the Champions League, and we can't compete with that yet.
Deals take a while, Steve. Man United, the money that they've got, they're not signing players at the minute. They find it difficult to attract the right players and get them through. Look at Real Madrid had the pants pulled down by Mbappe a few weeks ago. It happens, and sometimes the more money that you've got, you're shopping in different markets and in a different kind of level, and the deals become more complicated. Clubs know that you've got money, so the prices get bandied around a ridiculous. Players know that you've got money, so they start asking for bigger fees and bigger salaries and bonuses and all sorts. So it just makes everything all more different. Just because you've got loads of money doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be easier to get players, because you still want value for money. You still want to get the right characters in. The Haaland deal is the kind of the big one that's gone through so far in the Premier League. That's probably been 12 months in the making, that deal. That's not something that's just come out of nowhere. That's something where they've been put a lot of time and energy into it, certainly over the last 12 months, but particularly over the last kind of 4 or 5 months since the turn of the year. So these deals take a bit of time to get through, no matter how much money you've got.
Yeah, Ian McCann makes a good point as well. He says, to anybody panicking, the PIF invested close to $2 billion in companies last week alone. He says, this isn't a joke to them. They're very, very serious. Just have a little faith. Very good, Ian. But yeah, I agree with you. Shane, good question. Do you think Howe will stick with a 4-3-3 formation, Ross?
I think he probably will, certainly initially. And that'll be judged by the kind of the players that they're targeting. They want... he wants wide forward, improve the wide forward areas, but yeah, it's a kind of tried and tested formation. A lot of the top clubs play 4-3-3. Man City are kind of 4-3-3s or versions of. Same with Liverpool. It got Newcastle a lot of success in the last in the second half of the season. So if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Yeah, that's simple. I'll have to get a Ross Gregory t-shirt. If it ain't broke, why fix it? That's a good one for the food bank, that, Ross. You'll have to sign it. Big shout out to Reese. Ross, I'm sure you'll give Reese a shout out as well. It's Skullfist's son. I hope you're having a good day, son.
Yeah. Hi, Reese. How are you doing, son?
And Jimmy says, Ross, in time, do you think Eddie Howe could go down as one of the best managers that we've ever had on paper? He's got everything there behind the scenes to make it true.
He's got a fantastic opportunity, Eddie Howe. He's at a club which is ambitious, which has got money to spend, which wants to invest in the facilities and the infrastructure, and really try to establish themselves as one of the top clubs in not just in this country but in Europe. he's got everything there. But I'll go back to what I said previously. There's going to be a heck of a lot of pressure on Eddie Howe. We all hope that he can deliver, success, because the club has been starved of success in my lifetime, in your lifetime, Stephen, in most people's lifetime. We have to go back a long, long way until there was until we've had silverware. So we all hope Eddie Howe can deliver that. If he brings a trophy to Newcastle over the next 3-4 years, 5 years, he will go down in history as one of the great Newcastle managers. But it also brings its own pressure, the kind of the level of finance and opportunity that is around the club at the minute brings its own pressures for Eddie Howe. So hopefully he can deliver. We all want that, and hopefully in a few years' time we're sitting here calling for Eddie Howe statues along with Joe Harvey's.
Yeah, after Ashley never spent a penny the last few years, does that mean your financial fair play is in good standing so you can afford to spend? Your House of Pain does. I wouldn't kid you that I know the full ins and outs of it, of course, because it's all very complex, and you could get a new sponsor in on your shirt. It's not happening this year. We're severed our deal next year to get rid of Fun 88. But yeah, look, the fact that we haven't spent massively gives us that little bit of leeway to spend a little bit more. However, I do feel that the Saudis will stick to the game plan, and I've mentioned this on the show before. You might not have watched it, but Newcastle will stick to a pretty strict game plan for the first 3 transfer windows. I think 100 million-ish on each of the windows. They may bring in a bit of money from players sold and spend that as well, but there's a game plan here, and the training facilities need to be sorted out. The ground needs to be redeveloped in certain parts. There's a hell of a lot of work to do, which isn't just on the pitch. The pitch, of course, is where it matters, because you need to get results, and getting good results and, doing well in the Premier League, and maybe it's the odd cup run, and God, pray to God we'll get a cup final and a win, and win our first trophy, since a domestic trophy since 55. It would be great. But lots to do. But yes, we have got a little bit of leeway on that. John asks, lads, will any season tickets be available for public purchase? I wouldn't blame the club for just making tickets available on a match-to-match basis. The answer is, John, we don't know, but we are going to find out this week. There is going to be an announcement this week. One thing I will say is that it's not going to please everybody, and I don't know what the answer is at the moment. I've got no privy information at what's going to be said, but there will always be somebody who isn't happy. That's going to be the big problem. Let's just hope that, from our perspective, that people get a chance to buy some season tickets. I think it would be good. Tom says, would you go for Jamie Vardy or anyone from Leicester? I mean, the 2 names that keep getting thrown at Ben Jacobs, who of course is Leicester and then Newcastle, is Jamie Vardy and Kasper Schmeichel. Either of those interest you, Ross?
I am a massive Jamie Vardy fan. I think I love the story behind it. I love where he's come from in his career and what he's achieved. I love the way he plays. I love the pace and the aggression and somebody who plays on the last man, on the shoulder. I love everything pretty much about Jamie Vardy. I'm not a massive fan of his misses, if I'm being brutally honest, but apart from, if we're looking at it from a pure footballing perspective, I think he's fantastic, and he's been a brilliant player, and he's one of the kind of cult heroes of the Premier League era. And he's not somebody who's come through the conventional route, which I just love. I love that story about him. But I wouldn't want him at Newcastle now, because I think his best days are behind him, and he's 34, 35. I think he'd probably go on for another couple of seasons, but he's not somebody that I'd necessarily think that Newcastle should be targeting. Same with Schmeichel. I think there's other options I'd rather explore first and foremost. But 2 fantastic players. And while we're on Leicester, I just think it's a really, really good story and a really good model for Newcastle to kind of follow. A club that's it lives within its means. It does things the right way. It's really connected with a fan base. It's very community orientated. They've got a real kind of good feel around the club. The ownership get the fans, and the fans get the ownership, which I think is really important around a football club. I really like Brendan Rodgers as a manager in the style of play that he gets his teams to play. For a club like Leicester over the last 5 or 6 or 7 years to have won the FA Cup, won the Premier League, got in the Champions League, got into Europe, just a fantastic story, and I think there's a lot of stuff that Newcastle can look at and take from when it comes to Leicester.
Yeah, Wild Dead says Liverpool are loaning out Davies, who's a defender, and selling Neco Williams. Would you go there? You know what? We proved it in January. The loan market is something Newcastle, despite having all this fortune behind them, aren't afraid to test. And sometimes bringing in a player on loan, season-long loan or half-season-long loan, isn't a bad idea, because sometimes you might not have the information on how that player is, or whether they're going to be able to settle in. And ultimately that is something that I was really pleased to see. And look what's happened. Matt Targett's come, he's loved it, and now he's signed on a permanent deal. And we got a good player there. So yeah, I don't see any issue at all with potentially exploring the loan market, maybe going for some players. I'd rather do that than sign a cast off from a top 6 team and then find that it's been the biggest waste of money. We get stung essentially, because Newcastle United has had far too much of that. Wild Dead also says, Lingard, what's he up to? We were looking at him before in January. Again, I think, paper talk at the moment, Ross, is, his wages are too high. I mean, it looks ridiculous. He's not going to get those wages at Newcastle because they have a strict wage structure, which they're not prepared to break at the moment.
Yeah, I think Lingard is still somebody that's of interest. But it's got to be the right deal. It's got to be the right package. They've got to get the right player into the changing room. That's not going to upset the balance. It's not going to upset. It's not going to upset the rest of the players in there who'll be on a certain wage structure, who've been with the club for a long period of time as well. Some of them. So it's not just about getting the player in who's the best player on the pitch. It's getting players in who fit in that changing room, who fit in with the whole ethos of the club, and that might be an area which prevents someone like Jesse Lingard coming to Newcastle.
Rex says, any news about Demiral? This was a story that was broken by the Chronicle. Lee Ryder, Turkey international, of course. He's no stranger to Newcastle United, and Newcastle potentially interested in him. Is any news on that one from the Chronicle's perspective?
Not that I've heard. Like I say, I'm in the Chronicle today, so I'll Lee's just over the way there, so I'll have a chat with Lee at some point today, but it's not something that I've heard any progress on over the last few days.
Yeah, make sure you give Ross a follow on Twitter, because he does retweet a lot of the stuff from Chronicle HQ and Lee Ryder, of course. They've got their own Newcastle United Chronicle Twitter as well, so make sure you have a look at that. Jody Tumberlife says, here's me seeing players Jesus and Werner as possible targets. Then you say I'm not being realistic when you can say we can spend 100 million. Yes, 105 million loss over 3 years. Just that's part of the chat that's going on with regards to financial fair play, which, look, it's interesting. I mean, and again, I don't tend to speak about something unless I know a little bit about it. And, it is all very confusing, financial fair play to me. I've got to be perfectly honest. And, Ian is just trying to explain a little bit about it. John asks, how do you think Elliot Anderson will feel if we bring in 19-year-old Ekitike and give him regular game time when we're loaning, when we've loaned him out? Good question. I guess if you're good enough, you're gonna make it, aren't you?
It is. I think the Elliot Anderson situation is going to be an interesting one over the summer. He'll come back for pre-season. I think he'll get an opportunity in the early stages of pre-season to kind of stake his claim and show what he's about. Show how much his loan spell at Bristol Rovers has benefited him. And he's been in and around the first team squad before, so I think we know that he's got something about him and there's real potential there. Again, you just have to trust in somebody like Eddie Howe who might look and think, right, for Elliot Anderson's development, it's best that he goes back out on loan. He goes to a League One or a Championship club, and that's his next, or up into Scotland or wherever it is. That's the next best stage for his development. They might think his best stage for his development actually is being in and around the first team, being in and around your Kieran Trippiers and your Ekitiges and your Callum Wilsons and so on and so your Brunos. That might be the best next stage for his development. If he's good enough, Elliot Anderson, he will find a way into Newcastle's first team.
Yeah, I guess the breaking news that we've had this week is that the Bulldogs are making their way into the training ground. And I mean, it's exciting that for the players, isn't it, Ross, that off the field, there is going to be some major changes. And those players will walk in, at some point to the training ground and be blown away, I would imagine, because the Saudis don't do things by halves. They do things properly.
But we've all known that the training ground needed some sort of redevelopment, refurbishment, improvements for a lot of years. There's a couple of things behind it for me. Is one, it's when you're showing potential new signings around the club and around the city and around the training ground, it's if they're going to let's take Sven Botman. If Sven Botman goes to Milan and sees their training facilities, and he comes to Newcastle and sees their training facilities, it might make a mind up. It's little things like that can make players mind up, because you want to be comfortable in your workplace and in your work surroundings. You want to be able to improve as a player and maximise the kind of short career that you've got. And equally for Eddie Howe as well, he wants to be able to improve players and get that extra 1%, 2% out of players, which can be done via some of the stuff that's going on at the training ground, whether it's rehab facilities or hydro pools or whatever it might be. You need to have the best facilities to be able to attract the best players, but also to improve the players that you've got. So really exciting, not before time. Be great to see it improve. I don't think Newcastle will be there long term under the Saudi regime at the current training ground. I do think that they'll look for somewhere new and fresh and different, and somewhere where they can expand and make it even better. But in the short term, great to see that the facilities have been improved.
Yeah, John, you make the point there wonderfully. He says, isn't it just great to be talking about all these possible signings after the last 14 years? And yeah, it gets back to what I was saying at the start of the programme about, this like cloud that has followed us around for 14 years, Ross. But that's what I keep trying to emphasise this with people who watch this particular show, is just enjoy it. We've been in this period of disenchantment and disconnection with a football club. But now things are changing, and you've just got to park the history and just enjoy it.
100%. But and that's the way it should be. And I think for the majority of people, they are excited and they are looking forward to it. Again, football fans, and we're all fickle. We're all we're not perfect. It can be impatient, and we all want you could sign I don't know. Messi in the summer, and people would still complain, he's too old, or he's past his best, or whatever. People are never 100% happy, but just to be in these conversations about players, to be in these conversations about looking at spending 80, 90, 100 million in a transfer window is incredible. Long may it continue. Let's hope that the club get the right players in, because we have seen a lot of money wasted in under previous. Not so much under Mike Ashley, under the previous regimes at Newcastle. We've seen a lot of big money signings that have been brought to the club for the wrong reason. So we all hope that the right players are brought in. But yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you just got to enjoy it, folks. I'm conscious of the time. Ross, you've got a busy day at the Chronicle, and you might get us some exclusive news. Make sure you tag us in it on Twitter, mate, today. Pass on my best to everybody at the Chronicle. Great paper. Go and visit it online. Always good Newcastle United content. Ross Gregory, see you next week, mate. Take care.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching.